And it turns out that to denigrate the Taliban at a scientific meeting is to court controversy. And after my remarks, I fell into debate with another invited speaker, and this is more or less exactly how our conversation went. She said, "How could you ever say that forcing women to wear burqas is wrong from the point of view of science?" I said, well, because I think it's pretty clear that right and wrong relate to human well-being.
The statement here is that right and wrong relate to human well-being. Well, it depends on whose point of view you're taking. If we examine the events of 9/11, for example, there are still videos on YouTube reported by the news media. There were American Muslims celebrating the events of 9/11. The only way I can explain this is that they were somehow believing that this is maximizing their own well-being. I can give you another example. The ultra-rich people, they're certainly maximizing their own well-being, but they're not thinking too much about everyone else. Of course, I say this because he didn't say maximizing the well-being of everyone. He just said maximizing well-being. In case he meant maximizing the well-being of all humanity, then the problem is who decides how much well-being is enough and how much suffering is enough suffering.
And where do our notions of right and wrong come from? Well, clearly they've been drummed into us by evolution, that the product of these apish urges and social emotions, and then they get modulated by culture. We take sexual jealousy, for instance. And this is an attitude that has been bred into us over millions of years. Okay, our ancestors were highly covetous of one another, despite the fact that everyone was covered with hair and had terrible teeth. And this possessiveness now gets enshrined in various cultural institutions like the institution of marriage. Okay, so therefore a statement like it's wrong to cheat on one's spouse, okay, seems a mere summation of these contingencies. It seems like it's an improvisation on the back of biology. It seems that from the point of view of science, it can't really be wrong to cheat on your spouse.
I dare him to say this to his wife or girlfriend, though, that it is not wrong to cheat on her and that his love for her is only the byproduct of evolution. Wow, this evolution is a marvelous thing. It creates life out of rocks, it creates arts, love, philosophy. These so-called scientists live in their own fantasy world. Did you ever hear him bring any evidence to the table? All he says that is, according to him, it's pretty clear that something happened.
Now, in claiming that values reduce to the well-being of conscious creatures, as I will, I'm introducing two concepts, consciousness and well-being. Now let's start with consciousness. This is not an arbitrary starting point. Imagine a universe devoid of the possibility of consciousness. Imagine a universe entirely constituted of rocks. Okay, there's clearly no happiness or suffering in this universe. There's no good or evil. Value judgments don't apply. For changes in the universe to matter, they have to matter at least potentially to some conscious system.
The problem here is that he never explains where consciousness comes from. I would bet that he believes that consciousness is the product of evolution, which would ultimately mean that rocks can actually produce consciousness. Do you see the fallacy in that? It then means that actually changes matter even if the whole universe is made out of rocks.
Okay, what about well-being? Well, the well-being of conscious creatures and the link between that and morality may seem open to doubt, but it shouldn't. Okay, here's the only assumption you have to make. Imagine a universe in which every conscious creature suffers as much as it possibly can for as long as it can. Okay, I call this the worst possible misery for everyone. Okay, the worst possible misery for everyone is bad.
What if you kill somebody fast? There are ways to even kill people painlessly. The problem is that his view doesn't explain why human life is valuable. It just talks about suffering and how living in suffering is bad. But taking life, no matter how, in a painful way or not painful way, is just as bad as suffering itself. Every life is equally valuable. And unless you start with God, you're never going to understand this.
Okay, if the word bad applies anywhere, it applies here. Now, if you think the worst possible misery for everyone isn't bad, or maybe it has a silver lining, or maybe there's something worse, I don't know what you're talking about. And what's more, I'm pretty sure you don't know what you're talking about either. What I'm saying is the minimum standard of moral goodness is to avoid the worst possible misery for everyone. If we should do anything in this universe, if we ought to do anything, if we have a moral duty to do anything, it's to avoid the worst possible misery for everyone.
Alright guys, I went on a fun note. He's not providing any evidence, so I would say he made a pretty poor case. It felt more like story time with a lot of biased opinion and of course lies about the nature of God. But I'm not here to judge. We all will be judged. Don't take Sam Harris seriously, and I definitely recommend you check out the full debate. Actually, Dr. William Lane Craig has some actual logical reflections and good points to share. All this is worth hearing. God bless you, and bye-bye.